Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 6 of the Doctor Who spin-off series Class, entitled Detained. Man, this was a performance-heavy episode. Everybody was on frickin' point. The intensity was through the roof, and I mean, we've seen episodes like this in a lot of genre shows before. But what I really like about this one was it was down to the ensemble. You know, it wasn't pinpointing any one of these characters over the other. Everyone involved is being affected by this meteorite chunk, this shard that contains, the last of four, I guess, entities, you could say, that were contained in a prison of sorts. And, with their being locked up, as the title suggests, in detention for all intents and purposes by Quill, man, oh man, I don't even know where to begin. Everybody was just spectacular in this episode. Their performances, like the whole concept of being subject to the emotions, most notably the rage of confession, the idea of, the radiation, you could say, was permeating the entire environment of this classroom displaced outside of space and time. It was really trippy and funny when Charlie goes to put his arm out and, he drops the pencil, and Ram, the face he makes when he turns around, he's wide-eyed, just like, whoa, he's completely freaked out. And when they first throw the rock out and, it comes right back in, or toss it out, whatever it is, the idea that even without touching it, does its essence, does the emotion permeate the whole area, much like a sort of radiation. And it's this feeling of rage that everyone is just, it's really, a pot ready to boil. It's heating up and heating up and heating up all throughout the course of the episode, watching everyone, succumb to the weight of this thing and reveal harsh truths that they wouldn't necessarily normally, share. And this is something that really harkens back to the essence of humanity. I mean, this is, part of the human condition. This is what we're all like. Even our nearest and dearest, even our most cherished loved ones, there are sometimes internally we have feelings, against them, or we have aggravations against them, or we have thoughts we wouldn't necessarily share. It's just the human condition. It's just the human mind to be that way. And Charlie is the only one among all of them, April, Ram, Matthias, Tanya. He's the only one among them all who, because he is an alien, it's not affecting him in quite the same way. Of course, there's a lot to do with his character having this sort of, the claustrophobia, the being really incensed by being in an enclosed space. And it's something, a lot of people can definitely highly relate to. There are certain scenarios where I feel that way. I'm not given to it overtly, but, there are times when a confined space can get to you. And he was, full-on anxiety attack at one point in this episode, Matthias needing to sort of bring him down. And I thought this was a really tender and concerning moment between them, because it comes after Matthias is being the first to, have his hands on this rock, which forces those confessions, and he reveals how afraid he is of, who Charlie is, what he's capable of, the idea that he is an alien. Internally, he's so different. And there's some great commentary there, once again, about the human condition, where we look at each other. I think Tanya, grazed this with her sort of racial, white people remark, where we unfortunately are a species subject to tribalism. We are unfortunately, of similar kind is what we feel more comfortable around. And I think that's why in the modern world, the progressive idea of us all culminating together and trying to be as peaceful as we can, infinite diversity and infinite combination, as Star Trek's Spock once said. It's such a special idea and special concept, and that's very much what we have going on with the cast of this show. I think that's one of the things I love the most, because they are all so diverse and so different, and yet they have been united through the tragedy and the confrontation of alien conflict and all these kinds of things. No matter their differences, they have had to learn to work together. And this whole scenario with this meteorite, this essence, permeating them, is threatening to overthrow that. And I think by the end, it's loosely and arguably brought to boil to the point where are we going to see them all going their separate ways by the end of the finale? I don't know. It definitely seemed like things were rough and tumble because, of course, you have Rem revealing how much he is thoroughly in love with April. And this was somewhat shocking to me, but I felt much more, as I talked about in my previous episode discussion videos, at first, the idea of Ram sort of, bridging that gap between he and April, it felt a little unnatural at first to me, and I thought it would have been better aligned if he had something building between he and Tanya. And I didn't know, I did speculate, how much of this was genuine, how much of this was maybe out of a sense of vengeance, knowing that April contained the Shadowkin King's heart and everything like that. Maybe he was trying to seek an in to get, straight at the heart, no pun intended, of the Shadowkin King. And was it that he actually had true feelings for April? Was this only perhaps a rebound after the insane murder of his girlfriend? And we find that it's actually genuine. We find that when given to this property of having to spill the absolute truth, he is thoroughly in love with her. He is genuinely in love with her, and he fears that she is not nearly as in love with him as he is her. And when it comes time for her to pick up this mantle, effectively, does she reveal that to be the case within her as well? She understands how much he loves her, but she doesn't necessarily feel the same way. She feels for him, but she doesn't know if it's on the same level, and she fears it may never be. And they're using all of these sort of confessional ideas to break and whittle away at this essence that is commanding them to do it, trying to force it to reveal the truth of where they are, how they happen to be there, how they can break free of it. And once they've gone through all of them, everything is brought to a fever pitch with Charlie, who is the most unaffected, who is, in the truths that have been revealed. He knows what it's like to feel like an outsider, much as Tanya revealed herself to feel, much as, April sort of challenged her. We all have things that have been effed up since day one, since this all began, to lead us all feeling that way. And this is what creates that tantamount conflict that everything is left seemingly falling apart by the end. But it is Charlie truly living up to a sense of heroism when he picks this thing up and he forces it to reveal all. And the final sort of hidden truth is that the only way to break free is for one of you ridden with guilt, becomes my murderer. And we see Charlie effectively do this. And, it was tantamount emotion. It was a torrential flood of intensity, and everything finally kind of sort of works itself out. In the end, they break free of this timeless space, if you will, this spacelessness. They find a way back, but they're not necessarily all the better for it. And it was like, so momentous. It was such an epic scale, emotional, torrential episode with all of these actors on point. I spoke very early on in my coverage of the series that the casting was pitch perfect. And I stand by that claim, and I use this episode in evidence of that fact. And again, by the end, seeing Quill coming in, a scar down her face, one of her eyes seemingly rendered blind or at least color changed, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, her hair much longer, and she gives Charlie the bag with the thing that was in her brain. So whatever she had to do, it looks like Quill through the looking glass by the preview for the next episode. Whatever she had to do, she succeeded, and it looks like she may have lost something to the cause of whatever, challenge that was as well. I might be completely mistaken, but it looked like there was some kind of bonding going on between her and one of these other characters, a black gentleman who went on this journey, this trip with her. And I think the, sort of lady headmistress of Coal Hill Academy now, I think all three of them go into this vortex, something like that, and maybe there's a bonding there. Whether out of survival or out of a romantic thing remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to find out. But probably the best episode out of them all thus far, and can't wait to see where we go in the next. So yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.